Preparing to go live. We're live streaming. Make sure that we are, in fact, live streaming. Come on. I'm refreshing. Hold, please. Technology is my friend. There we are. Fantastic. Hello. Hello, beautiful humans. And welcome to another episode, which I've come to believe that these are episodes of 20 Seconds of Courage. I'm Tracy Robin. And if you're watching this, I am so excited. So exciting. I am exciting. I'm excited to have you here. If you don't know anything about the 20 Seconds of Courage series that I began back in 2019, it's really about me having 20 seconds of courage to literally hit record and go live as an effort to not overthink things. I think we often overthink ourselves into all the reasons why we can't do something instead of just taking action. Can anybody relate to that? I certainly can. And in addition to that, it was a forum that I wanted to create in order to have a place to ask uncomfortable questions. And for a very long time in my life, I felt like everyone else got the rule book and I had been missing some pages. And so I was always afraid to ask certain questions or talk to people about certain things. And so I decided, let me open up a room where I can just ask questions and we can just talk real, right? Really talk vulnerably, authentically about all things, all subjects. And I'm super excited to be here with you today because today I have my beautiful friend and colleague, Sharada Devi. Welcome, Sharada.
Thank you, beautiful. I am just as equally delighted to be with you.
I'm so happy to have you here. So, what can I say about you? There's so many things to say about you. Sharada is a healer. She is a coach. She is a chanter, like myself. She's a yogi. She is an advocate for having the skills to take care of yourself naturally. And those that know me know that that is my jam. So I am super excited to have this conversation with you today because we're going to share a lot of ways to um, have optimal health holistically, right? Ways in which you can manage pain, anxiety, moods, whatever you want to call them, right? Um, in a way that is natural, in a way that feels empowering, in a way that puts the tools in your hands. I think that's a fair assessment of what we're going to kind of talk about today. What do you think?
That sounds like my wheelhouse.
Amen, sister. Okay, so I would love it if you would just tell us about yourself. I think you would be doing a better job of that than I ever would. So, can you tell us a little bit about, or tell me, those of you that are watching, you can get to be a fly on the wall. Tell me a little bit about how did you come to this place to be the woman that you are today? What was the
Uh,
journey for you to reach towards the holistic route?
it was a long journey, like many stories. It started in my young years. I come from a long line of folks who struggle with depression and anxiety, and I struggled with both of those. And by the time I was in high school, they both had a real hold on me. I learned things in high school like this: not everyone has suicidal thoughts, but I did. And I was a performer. I was heading off to music school. I had a scholarship to music school. Unfortunately, my self-esteem was so low that I stayed long enough to do my recital and then quit before graduation,
Mm.
which is kind of classic fear of failure and success. But when you struggle emotionally the way I did, that makes sense. And then shortly after that, in that summer, when I was still carrying around all this sense of failure and self-loathing, I was warming up for a dance class and I was pushing beyond the limit of my stretch. And I pushed too hard. And a very bad sound came out of my body, and pain shot from my left hip to my left foot.
Ouch.
Yeah. And that pain was real and it did not go away. And that day, that emotional pain that I had and that physical injury melded together. And there's reasons that we know that's what happened because that's how the brain does it, and became one giant colossal trauma. And I spent the next 3 years limping in and out of doctors' offices, trying all the things, but getting no relief until at the ripe old age of 24, I might have been 25, it's that summer. A
We were
doctor,
babies.
we were babies. Yeah, I was so young. Oh my gosh. Uh, that summer, a doctor who couldn't give me any insight into what was wrong with my hip told me this. He said, "Well, the thing I can tell you is that you're going to have osteoarthritis when you're older."
Mm.
I was horrified. As we say in the South, I was mad as a wet hen. But I left that doctor's office that day knowing that if I was going to find a solution to my challenge, I was going to need to be the one that figured it out, because it didn't appear that there were any answers after 3 years of searching out there. And I'm happy to report that here in my sixth decade, I do not have osteoarthritis, and I am very happy in a full split.
Amazing. Oh my
I'm a,
God.
yeah.
So what do you attribute to the healing that you've had? Like, was there one specific thing? Because I know for myself, it's never really just one thing. It's a few modalities that, right? There's no magic pill, even though so many people are looking for magic pills.
No.
What did you find was the most helpful for your healing?
The first miracle that happened was I found the yoga mat. And
Amen.
yes, on the yoga mat, I learned to breathe properly and to move my body safely. It didn't undo all of the damage that was done, but it gave me that ability to see the possibility that I could be without pain, constant pain. And I started engaging as much support as I could. I found therapists who helped me untangle unprocessed emotional traumas from childhood. And by the way, we all have them. Childhood is a bumpy sport. And I found body workers who helped me understand that the brain creates everything and that this body is built to heal. And I engaged in everything, and the things that were really helpful, I got certified in. And along the way, I got myself about 4 degrees, and I have degrees in both the sciences and the humanities because that's what it took to heal me.
Mm, lovely. Love it. Such an inspiring story. And I think that is so true what you said about getting certified in the thing that really worked for you, right? Because it's becomes part of your journey. And I know for myself, when I hit the yoga mat, that's how my journey started. Like I was massively stressed out and it was wreaking havoc on my health.
Mhm.
And my cousin told me, you should get to yoga because I don't know what's going to happen with you otherwise. And I walked into that formal yoga class. I say that because I realized I had been practicing yoga my whole life. I had been meditating since I was like 12 and
Mm.
had been doing yoga. I just didn't know it was yoga. I called it stretching. And my father knew what it was, but he never really labeled it. He just said to me, keep doing that for the rest of your life and you'll never grow old. And I heard that and I was like, whatever, I'm going to watch TV, whatever. I'm going to watch TV in a split, like, and, um, and that moment that I stepped on the formal yoga mat was like coming home and it was instantaneous. I was like, I need to share this with as many people as I can because this is where I came home to my body and my heart and my emotions and my mind were all unified in that breath in that place on the mat through the breath. So I so relate and I'm so glad you found yoga because you're here to tell that story. And what I loved what you said is how the yoga gave you the ability to see the possibility. And I think that's something really powerful.
Mhm.
Um, because it forces you to stop and listen. I think that's one of the things I love so much about yoga.
Yeah. Yeah.
It gives you the opportunity to really listen inwardly,
Yes.
right? Because we spend most of our time listening outwardly.
Yeah. It's a check in, not a check out. People think it's a check out, but it's a check in.
Well, you can use it to check out, and there are people that use it to check out. It's like
Absolutely.
anything, right? You know,
Sure.
in the tradition that I teach, we talk about riding the wave,
Mhm.
riding the wave of sensation.
Mhm.
And so something will happen, and then emotion escalates, or feeling, sensation. And so if we allow ourselves to get to that, the climax of the sensation, whatever that is, the pain, the hurt, whatever it is, you can feel it. It doesn't have to be negative either, by the way. It could be positive. Some people don't like to that kind of excitement.
Mhm.
But if we let ourselves get to that place, it will crest like a wave. And then integration is possible and healing happens because we let ourselves feel the entire cycle of that wave. Most of us, something happens, boom, the sensation rises, and we jump. We jump through addiction. We jump through shopping and alcohol and drugs and surfing the internet. And some of us will go to over exercise, overeating, right? All those things.
Mhm.
So
Well,
interesting.
they did some research on people who had the opportunity to either sit in silence with themselves, and this research is pretty new. I want to say it's in the last 5 years. Sit in silence with yourself or give yourself painful electric shocks. Overwhelmingly, people chose painful electric shocks over sitting inside with their own thoughts and feelings.
Why do you think it is that we're so afraid to feel?
Oh, I think there's multiple prongs to it, as with many things. One of the prongs is that we're hardwired to avoid uncomfortable emotions. It's part of our protective system. It's part of what the system, our brain thinks it has one job, keep us alive. And an uncomfortable emotion maybe means we're in danger. So the brain will jump through all kinds of hoops to make it not be an emotional pain. And its chief hoop is get you up and get you moving or distract you mentally
Mm-hmm.
and take your vision somewhere else, to Facebook, to Instagram, to TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
Then you're out of your brain and
Jump off.
you jump off. And the other thing I think is because we really aren't taught these things. We're not taught them as young children. And so we get to be adults when, the stakes are really intense, the things are really intense, and we simply don't have good tools. And the great news about that is being comfortable and relaxed in your own body, being able to sit with whatever your nervous system is doing, because that's really where the crest of the wave is biologically. It's happening in your nervous system. And when you have tools that let you observe that, and that's what we get on the yoga mat, we get some really powerful tools. They're not the only ones, but to simply observe that, or as you say in your tradition, ride the wave,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
not be swept away by the wave.
Yeah. It's one of the things that yoga really taught me very early on, and I feel really blessed because I found yoga very early on in my life. And so when I returned to that formal mat, it was this click. It's like all the puzzles had all the pieces just kind of bloop, 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 bloop. Oh, right. That's where I'm supposed to be. Right. And what I learned, one of the things I think one of the greatest gifts is to know that the only way through it is through it.
Mhm.
I often say to my students, the very thing you're investing in avoiding is the thing that's going to set you free.
Right. Right.
And it doesn't have to be, it's not going to, it is going to feel scary because we've been avoiding it. And everything, as you said, and our brain chemistry is going, no, 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 it's going to be too hard. But it, it's, it's just energy.
Mhm.
It's emotion is just energy moving through your body, and it's looking to heal you. It's coming for you to feel it so you can heal it. It's not to so you feel it and get stuck. And when we get stuck is that resistance, right? Because of all the conditioning and patterning that we have been taught to, and the natural function of our primitive brain,
Yeah. Mhm.
which is the next question I have for you. So I had the absolute honor of having a session gifted to me by this beautiful woman, and we did some tapping. Can you talk to us a little bit more about tapping and how the heck does that work?
Well, the good news to know, or the first thing to know, is there are many different uses of tapping. Tapping is classically, literally, repeatedly tapping on specific places on the body. There are many different styles, and they incorporate many other techniques with the style. The style of tapping that I use is called eutaptics or faster EFT, and it's a hybrid of both hypnosis and NLP and tapping. But the
Ah,
tapping part, yes. And so all of the different tapping styles, they use tapping, but then they have different other things, modalities around it. Because,
interesting. I didn't realize there were so many different. I thought it was just one.
yeah,
Cool.
yeah. And what the physical tapping does is it interrupts nerve signals. I use a very abbreviated form of tapping because it doesn't take much to interrupt a nerve signal. Very little
Hmm.
pressure will cause the signal to do like this. And when that signal is turned on and telling your heart rate to speed up and all of your organs to shut down and putting your nervous system in high alert, you want to quiet that signal. You want to calm all that down. And that's what the physical act of tapping
Hmm.
really does. Just doesn't take much to
So
interrupt.
it's a a nerve signal interrupter.
Yes.
That's fascinating.
Mhm. There's been some research on the tapping points, and they map pretty carefully, there are many of them, to the meridian points.
Hmm.
And I have a hypothesis, completely untested, but I'm a scientist and I can throw out a hypothesis. I have a hypothesis that these spots are places where there are groups of nerves. And so you get a lot of bang for your buck by tapping on these spots. And it's a closed system in here. So when you affect any area of the body, and we definitely know this in movement, break your arm and watch how it changes your walking gait.
I think I broke a toe and everything, all my hips, everything. Excuse me, I dropped something.
No worries. Yes, but that a perfect example. So when you affect the nerve signals in one area, it's going to affect the whole system. And then these places are nerve signals that run to the heart and to the vital organs. And when you calm those signals down, you calm down the whole nervous system and you calm down the body. When we get out of a heightened state of fight or flight, then we can use our brain consciously in all kinds of ways to create all kinds of transformations and changes.
Mm.
But as long as we're stuck in high alert, it's like a tense muscle. You're going to have a devil of a time getting your thoughts and your emotions, which they're all happening in your brain. They're all brain activity. I know we don't talk about emotions that way, but they're all neurons firing together. And when you get that system calmed down, then you can use your powerful wisdom to make whatever kind of changes in whatever kind of ways you want. But if that muscle is tight, you're not going to stretch it.
Hmm.
If that system is high, you're going to have a hard time seeing the possibilities.
Right. Right. Because your body's too busy going, I gotta manage it. I have to manage it. There's something I read recently. Let's see if did I write it here? Um, talking about heightened states. I did write it down. So there's this great book called, I think it's called One Small Step Can Change Your Life.
Mm.
It's about the Kaizen way.
Ooh.
Kaizen is this idea of one small step, little baby incremental steps can change your life. I think it's the author, I think is Robert Maurer or something like that. But in one of the final chapters, he says it's physiologically impossible to feel fear and eat simultaneously
Yeah.
or to be afraid and eat at the same time.
Yes.
I thought that was fascinating because it goes along with what you're saying, right? Like we can't it we can't do those two things at once. It's like walking and chewing gum. Like your body has to calm down enough to interrupt that pattern to
Mm-hmm.
go. And it's so interesting because at this time of year, I found that a very interesting time. If you're watching this, whenever you're watching this, it's being shot in December during the kick, holiday seasons are in basically full swing. And I thought it interesting because emotional eating
Mhm.
comes from that not wanting to feel that fear.
Mhm.
And the
Mhm.
same thing happens of the not taking action and not moving through it, right? The same kind of through line. If we're too afraid, then we're not going to move forward. We're not going to be able to make a change because we're too busy managing those
Mhm.
emotions or tamping them down and jumping off the wave.
Mhm. Absolutely. And emotional eating is actually a little more complex than even just fear-based. We can emotionally eat for positive reasons too,
Oh, that's true.
because of we tie good and uncomfortable or unpleasant emotions up with different foods.
Mm-hmm.
And so, one example is, you loved a dish that your mother made, and now your mother is gone. I could resemble this story. Your mother is gone, and you're feeling a little anxious for whatever reason. And what your body is really calling for is your mother's love.
Mm,
But mother isn't here.
mm,
And I know that the donut is tied up with mother's love.
mm-hmm.
I'll reach for the donut. That drives a lot of it. And here's the good news: all emotional eating, good or bad, is our nervous system getting in a heightened state of alert and making us feel a little uncomfortable. And the thing is that anxiety can be very low level. The only sign that you really have that you're that uncomfortable is that you're reaching for the donut.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So,
and I think that one of the best things is to be able to actually notice. I know for me that's a lot of what I talk to my clients is sometimes having self-awareness is transformational. I mean, always it is, but if you've never had that before and you're able to notice your behavior as it's happening, even if you don't change the behavior yet, just to be able to go, why am I standing here with the refrigerator door open? I'm not really hungry,
yeah.
but and I have actually come to the point where I'm just like, why am I standing here? I literally say this to myself. This is an emotional choice right now.
Mhm.
What am I feeling? I'm feeling bored. I'm feeling scared. I'm feeling tired. Am I feeling actual hunger? It is very rare that I actually feel hunger. I think most people don't really actually feel hungry.
80% of all eating, disordered and normal, is emotional.
Yeah.
You're an emotional eater, you're completely normal. Now, what are you going to do with it?
Amazing. All right. So let's keep talking about this emotional stuff and this whole top idea of like anxiety. Can we talk
Mhm.
about that? Because this is the time of year I know. Well, I'll tell you a little story about me. I apparently have high anxiety. Who knew? When I was in high school, maybe I shouldn't say this on this because this will be forever out there in the universe. When I was in high school, some of my good friends used to call me Spaz because I had a lot of energy. I was like, woo, I just like was like a cheerleader for, I can't believe I just said that on public, whatever this is. I
I
was a
just
cheerleader for one semester, just one semester. My knees are still paying for that decision. Um, 40 years later. And yeah, so I was very high energy. And my science teacher, I remember, used to call me a permanently happy person. I actually had some friends once say to me that they couldn't be friends with me because I was too happy all the time. That's a whole other story. I think I might have shared that with you actually in our session. But
yeah.
anyway, that's a story for another time. The fact is I have high energy. At
Uh-huh.
least that's what I was calling it.
Yeah.
And then I had a coach who I hired and she did this personality assessment. I think it's called the NEO. It's
Mhm.
like, it tests you for neuroticism and all there's like four different things that it tests you for. And anyway, so I take the test and she gets on the first call with me and she goes, "Are you medicated?" Now, this is right in alignment with what we're about to talk about, okay? Because y'all are here to learn tools and get skills so that you don't have to take pills, or at least not as many pills. And this woman says to me, "Are you medicated?" And I said, "No, why would you ask me that?" I mean, if anybody knows me, I'm like holistic nature girl. I do not even have Tylenol in my house. You have a headache, I'm going to give you peppermint oil. You know, I mean, that's the kind of house I live in. So, I mean, so she says, well, here's the thing. Normal anxiety people are here. High anxiety people are here, and you're somewhere up here. I don't know how you're standing without medication. And so I went and said, well, I practice meditation, I do yoga, I journal, I do breath work, I eat really well, I eat healthfully. I have a massage therapist, I have a chiropractor, I have energy healers. And she was fascinated that I was not medicated for all these years because apparently I have high anxiety. And it's interesting, and I'd love to touch on this at some point today if we can, how I think that identifying what I had
Mhm.
exacerbated it
Mhm.
a little bit
Mhm.
and also let me know how to manage it. Right. So it was good. It was a good and bad thing. It was like the diagnosis makes it even worse because what we focus on, you create more of.
Mhm.
And then I also was able to notice, oh, this emotion is I'm feeling anxious. And then to be able to go, when do I get this emotion? And it was always, I like my asthma and it was just this whole weird thing. Like all these things I realized about my health were stemming from that emotional source. Can you
Mhm.
talk a little bit about that? I don't know if I gave you a good
Yeah,
jumping off
no,
point,
you
but
gave, oh, so much goodness there. Where shall I start? So, anxiety. If you are anxious, you are absolutely normal. The World Health Organization has identified anxiety as a global epidemic. And the truth of the matter is, we have cranked up our lives so loudly that it's almost impossible not to be anxious. I mean, and sadly, in our country, we have all, um, we've experienced more gun violence than we ever should have known about.
yeah.
The pace of our lives is anxiety driving. The amount of time that we are spending hooked up to a screen and not out moving in our environment is anxiety creating. We are an anxious world. Okay. First thing I think is helpful to know is not all anxiety is bad.
Mm.
Anxiety is very helpful. Anxiety is that little bit of a response that we call thirst. True hunger, if you're actually hungry, that's an anxiety response. And what anxiety is really meant to do is to get us to change something, usually where we are. Get up and go get water. Get up out of the chair and move your body. That's what anxiety, healthy anxiety, is trying to get us to do.
It's a
Quite
signal.
honestly,
It's like a signal.
yeah. And it's a very necessary biological function. Waking up in the morning is an anxiety. Your body literally revs up your nervous system so that your eyes will open. So, if you are like me, and when I was young and I would wake up and feel anxious, I made up a story about that being something was wrong with me, and that story could go on all day long. Now, when I wake up and my body feels anxious, I go, oh, thanks for waking me up. I place my hands on my heart. I focus on a smooth, even breath, and it usually doesn't take more than 3 of those for my body to settle back down into balance. It needed to rev up to get me to wake up. I just needed to give it a few breaths to then settle back down.
Mm.
So, anxiety has a really important purpose in our life, and it's really good for us. However, the chronic anxiety that we are all currently dealing with because of the pace of our lives and the state of the world, and some choices we make of spending too much time in front of the screen
Mm-hmm.
or not eating a healthy diet. Eating bad food is very stressful for the body.
Right. Yep.
So,
And not sleeping enough.
not sleeping enough. Sleep is a huge problem. It's another epidemic of its own.
Yeah.
And sleep is vital for the health of our brain.
Yeah.
So we all want to work on giving this body what it needs. And quite honestly, most of our parents told us that. They told us we needed to sleep well and we needed to not eat too much junk food and we needed to go outside and play. I mean, it's magic. But our lives, the core of what I teach people or hope that I empower people to be is the mistress of their own marvelous nervous system. Because we talk about nervous system balance, and when the stress part of the nervous system gets overactive, we feel anxious, we feel angry, we feel impatient, we feel a number of things we call uncomfortable. And the other side of our nervous system is the side that keeps us in calm, balance, rest, and restore. And in truth, we're supposed to stay right here most of the time, gracefully riding the wave from one side of our nervous system to another. But our lives in this time tend to keep us in high alert. So we need skills. And I think that the yoga tradition is a long tradition of building those skills. Buddhist meditation, a long tradition of building those skills. Quite honestly, most of the contemplative practices in most of the traditions are all about bringing that nervous system into calm balance.
Into that balance. Yeah. To get us out of fight, flight, freeze and into that state of rest and digest.
And joy. Joy lives there.
And joy lives there too, I think it's so important. One of the things I always notice is people would come to yoga class and they'd come into shavasana and they'd wake up, they'd look like a new person. Then they'd go home and they'd be like, oh my God, I slept the best sleep I've ever slept in my entire life. What happened? I'm like, just keep coming back.
Exactly. Do that again.
Do it again. Repeat, lather, rinse, repeat, Oh my gosh. So what are some of your like hottest tips for people who want to use
Oh,
skills instead of pills, as you so brilliantly put in your recent masterclass? I just love that. Like, you've got to have skills instead of pills. I think we're so used to just reaching for the quick answer because change is too hard. We think it has to be hard. We think it has to be complicated. We think it's going to take too long. And I just want to take a stand because I think there's this train of thought where change is going to be harder than the discomfort I'm sitting in now. But is it though?
Doesn't have to be.
I mean, I just want to challenge that thinking because I really feel that a lot of humans invest in talking about what's not working and not doing anything to change it. And the energy, the effort and the energy and God, the discomfort and unhappiness that we choose to endure thinking that it's our plight in life because there's nothing better. I want to challenge that and say, I invite you to think about how good it can get. How much better could it get? Because the really dangerous is I shouldn't complain. It's enough. Everything's good enough. Like I have like that whole like enoughness or, like I'm just used to it or and this one kills me. Oh, well, it happened. It's been going on in my family for eons and eons and I can't change that. I'm here to say that's not true. And I'm from the look on your face, it's so not true. Epigenetics is teaching us that we can change through lifestyle. Neuroscience is teaching us that we can change through the way that we think and the way we speak. Talk more about that, Sharada. Let's preach it, sister.
Yes, I'll use a little example. I learned to chant a long Sanskrit epic. When I started, the teacher said, if you believe this is hard, it will be hard. If you believe this is easy, it will be easy.
Right.
Difficulty and the resistance to change is just a choice. And we can make other choices. And the thing is we do it all the time. Our body is changing every 7 years, totally new body. We change our mind every time we go to a restaurant. Do I want tom yum soup today or coconut soup today? We change all the time. Our brain is built to change. It is our fear and our resistance. And I really honestly think it's just that we haven't been given good tools. And it's also our isolation. Trying to do anything in isolation is more challenging
So hard.
at a certain level.
Mm,
When you and I have a conversation, our ideas about life change. Even
that's
if
right.
we both agree on the same thing
That's
and
right.
we don't change our position, our ideas change because in being with another human being, we change our beautiful brain.
Yeah. We're wired for that connection. And when that happens, as you said, like there's an elevation that happens for both parties.
Mhm.
And then exponentially for all the beings around you because you don't leave that conversation the same as you entered it.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you want to talk about hard, it may have been hard when I started changing my diet, which I worked on really young, and I did one thing at a time. And the first thing I decided that wasn't the best choice for my body was mayonnaise. So I was going to give up mayonnaise. Well, I grew up in the South, and I don't know if anybody was privileged to hear any of the memorial for Rosalind Carter. But her grandson got up and basically made this statement. My grandmother was Southern, and the secret sauce in every recipe was mayonnaise. So when I said started with mayonnaise, that was not a little ask for my Southern heart. But it's much harder to have your body break down, your health break down, and be dependent upon doctor's visits. You want to talk about hard and a real suck of your energy? I have friends, their whole life is organized around the next appointment
Yeah,
or
me too.
getting to the pharmacy to get the next treatment.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Not being able to do the things that you enjoy in life because your body can't go along with you anymore, that's hard.
Mm-hmm.
Paying enough attention to break a habit like eating mayonnaise, that was only hard in my 20s. That's not hard for me anymore now at all. So a lot of it is our perspective on what is hard. And I think it's ultimately the hard part is the being able to sit with ourselves, which we talked about earlier, and pay attention and catch ourselves and pay loving attention to ourselves. It's the ultimate form of self-care to go, you know what? Why am I standing in front of the refrigerator? I am not hungry. What am I? Oh, I'm feeling tired. Oh, I would like a hug.
Mm-hmm.
That it's just a moment. And cravings. Let's go back to food and cravings because food is such a big player at this time of year.
Mm-hmm.
Craving is an anxiety response. Emotionally, you have something good or bad tied up in that food that you're emotionally eating, you're binge eating. And I'm not going to talk about the peanut butter chips I got into last week. Okay. I'm just not going to talk about it right
We don't
now.
have to talk about that. Let's not talk about that. Let's not talk about the chocolate donuts that my sister brought to dinner the other night. Let's not talk about those.
Okay. Just in full disclosure. So you have this craving and really tapping, if you want to get over a cravings, most of them don't last for more than 5 minutes. So if you will just sit and be present with yourself for 5 minutes, but kind of honestly, that's harder work. If you notice that you're doing something like standing in front of the 17th chocolate donut or with the 17th chocolate donut in your hand or the half bag of peanut butter chips, they're really delicious, 3 at a time.
How did you really feel about those peanut butter chips?
Oh, yummy. Peanut butter is my favorite. This is where tapping is excellent. It's going to turn that craving signal, that anxiety call down. And it really doesn't matter what you say while you're tapping. Talking is just really another way to get your brain to make a different choice. We're distracting it from the anxiety signal. And if we distract it from the anxiety signal for long enough, guess what will go away?
Craving.
The anxiety signal, i.e., the craving. So you can tap
Fascinating.
on any moment where you feel stressed. Now, if that moment happens to be at the holiday dinner table with Uncle Bob, who has brought up his wackadoodle ideas once again, and you can just feel it rising up, you are about to let Uncle Bob have it. And then you know from past experiences that the whole family is going to get involved and it might end up in tears. And, mom will be telling you destroyed the dinner. But now if you're tapping at the table, people might notice. And then they're going to ask you what you're doing. And then, they'll figure out they got on your nerves. If you would like to be stealth, a stealth way to turn down that anxiety response. Because remember, it's a closed loop and it doesn't take much. Tapping's really flamboyant, I got to tell you. It's a big change. You have a panic button built into your hand. It's right at the base of your ring finger in that little soft spot. And if you take your thumb from that hand and put it in there, you will find a little pulse point. There aren't many places on the body where we can easily access a pulse point.
The ring finger or the middle finger?
The middle finger. Did I say ring? The
Yeah,
middle.
because I have a ring on my middle finger. So that's why.
Oh, okay. Well, there we go. And get it on, and you don't have to cut the circulation off. Just press on that little pulse point hard enough that you can feel it, a nice firm press, and then just close your hand. And you focus on your breathing. You let Uncle Bob go with whatever his wackadoodle idea is, and you just breathe.
It doesn't matter which hand, right?
Does not matter which hand. And if you're feeling really stressed, you can do both.
Oh, that's what fists are. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, well, I have thought this more than once. I was like, oh. So you're just applying pressure. It happens to be that this little pulse point is related to some of the veins and arteries, and there's a nerve in there too that happen to also be tied up in the plexus that comes out and goes to the heart. So it's not a direct wire, but it's a family wire.
Mm-hmm.
And also when you press on that pulse point, the circulation gets slowed down in your whole body because it's a closed system. And no one will ever know that they're getting on your last nerve. And that it's this, or you're going to tell them what you think. They'll never know. They'll just think that you are the calmest, coolest, most collective family member, and they'll wonder what your secret is. Because last year, you totally took the bait and you got into it and ruined your own dinner. But not this year.
Not this year because you got this tool.
You got the panic.
That's really cool. The panic button. And you can also you had told me that you can also touch without really tapping, right?
Yeah, just lean into that spot.
So when they start, you can go like this, although that might be obvious that you're just like,
Yeah. You got to manage, you've got to make sure you're smiling.
Oh, and I think that's a pattern interrupt, right? What we're talking about are pattern interrupts,
Absolutely.
and these are more of the circuit. You're interrupting the circuit of the flow of that response system, the nervous system response. But it really is, it's for simplest terms, it's a pattern interrupt, like these actions of what can we do almost to distract the amygdala, like, the part that's going, tiger's coming, run.
Exactly. Uncle Bob is trying to kill us with his wackadoodle ideas.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Absolutely. And the thing is we can use our biology to do it. And we're just using our body.
Fascinating.
To calm.
Well, now I know that I'm annoying you if you're sitting there like this.
Actually, I got to tell you, when I am working really hard, when I'm writing something and I'm really in the thick of it and I've got to get this sentence right, if I notice that I'm starting to do this, I will do this and it will calm that whole stress response that I'm building up down so that I can then reflect on what I'm writing and get the words the way that I want them.
That's awesome. That
Mhm.
is really fascinating. I'm just thinking like now I'm like I want to go into my mudra book and see like what's the associated mudra with this, you know? Do you know?
I do not know. And I will tell you that a lot of mudras are actually just using the fact that the brain has a ton of its neurological processing tied up in your hands. You
Hmm.
have more processing for your five sensory organs. If we, there's a thing called the sensory homunculus, which is a human body built in proportion to the amount of the sensory nerves. Your hands are huge, your lips are huge, your nose is huge, your eyes are huge, your ears are huge. Everything else is small in proportion.
Huh. Interesting.
Anything that you're doing with your hands has a big impact on your brain.
Aha. That is, I think, why, dare I say, that artists have such have a way of like their outlets. They're not necessarily, they tend to be happy. Well, I don't want to make a blanket statement, but happier in life because they're doing something that fulfills them.
And
You
they're
know what I mean?
happier when they're doing that thing. But
Correct.
the question about the mudras is very interesting, and I'm going to dig into that, and I will get back to you later so you can post an addendum.
Okay, we'll post an addendum, but I'm curious now too because I'm sure, and I have a book over there, but I won't go into it now. So anxiety, we got tapping, like if you're feeling stressed, right? Why did
Mhm.
I do the nose? I don't know.
It's
This.
your body. You can tap anywhere you
I can
want.
tap anywhere I want. Anywhere I want. I can tap my hands too, because apparently all the senses are in there, right?
Right.
This one too, which is a little bit more covert. And I'd also like to say get a good night's sleep because there's nothing that will heal you more than sleep. And I'm
Yeah.
noticing more and more. And I know for those of you that are watching that are in the second half of your life,
Mm-hmm.
sleep becomes more elusive.
Mm-hmm. Can be.
It can be more elusive, and it's really going to be important to make that a priority. Make it a
Especially
priority.
for the health of your brain. One of the things, if sleep used to be a mystery, we didn't know what the brain was doing while it was sleeping or why we slept. And now we understand that the brain in your deep sleep moments is cleaning itself. And
Hmm.
there are types of Alzheimer's. Well, really, all Alzheimer's is a buildup of plaque in the brain. Some of them have some other mechanisms as well. That plaque is in part a buildup of the chemicals and the lymph fluid that the brain is not able to clean out. And when we are sleeping is when the brain is super active. You know, the street cleaners that come out at 4 a.m. in their little gizmos? Well, that's your brain
Hmm.
in deep sleep. And so getting quality sleep is important for your brain health. And we know it's important for your all the rest of your physical processes as well.
Yeah,
And
that's really very valuable. Go on. Sorry, I didn't mean. I'm like excited
no,
about what you just said.
this is a, I know this is our problem. We have so much in common. If you want to look beautiful, you want proper sleep as well. Very restorative for the skin. So, one of the things that we do in this society that steals our sleep is we don't value it.
Yeah,
I
we think
prided
it's a luxury. We think it's a luxury. We think sleep is
prided
a
myself.
luxury because we're living in a culture that's the go, go, go culture, the do more, wait,
Also,
stay awake. It's the hustle culture and
mhm,
it's toxic. It is toxic for our health.
it's deadly. I know more than one person who has ended up in the emergency room, and these are people that were in their 30s, not old enough to have a heart attack,
Mm,
thinking they were
mm.
having a heart attack because they were living off energy drinks.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
it's just not the way to go. I think there's so much more that can be said about we're living in a hustle culture, which then enables those people selling youthful products, like youth products, and like the anti. Here you can get the products. We'll put it this way: it's the products that are being sold, so you can get so it can look like you've gotten your sleep, or quote unquote feel like you've gotten your sleep without actually getting your sleep,
Yeah.
and that does not work.
No, not for the body.
Does not work for the body. It might trick your brain a little bit, but not really. Physiologically, it doesn't, because that stuff accumulates, as you said.
Your brain is a body part at the
That's
end of the day.
correct. That's correct. And a lot of times I say this all the time. We walk around like disembodied heads. Like we forget that we're one unit. This is all connected. This is why I wanted to bring you on here, Sharada, because we so are in alignment with this kind of thinking, is that it's not just one thing. We are a connected body, mind, and heart, and and spirit, and it's all connected. And this hustle culture where we're being taught, like, oh, buy this cream, anti-aging, buy this thing. Like, I want to take a stand for people who are looking to create longevity through health span. Because sometimes, right? Sometimes we think, oh, we want to live longer, but living longer, if you don't have a health span, is not really what we want. I think we need to be really clear, talk about clearly manifesting what we desire. We don't just want more life, we don't want just more years. We want more life in our years, right?
Yeah. And I do what I do because this body of mine has taught me over and over and over again that it's built to heal. And
Exactly.
all it needs from me are the right circumstances and support.
Preach.
And
Yes.
that is sleep, that is food, and that is fun.
Mm-hmm. And I love what you said about circumstances and support, because I want to jump back to something you said. You said earlier that a lot of us think that it's just too hard. Like it feels like it's too hard to do. And I really want to say this to everybody listening, watching, whether you're live or in the replay. If you have questions, first of all, put your comments below, tag us, we'll connect with you. But what I want to say about it being too hard is it's too hard when we try to do it ourselves.
Absolutely.
Stop trying to reinvent the wheel, get support. It doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to take a year, years and years and years. You don't have to figure it out all on your own. And it's really important, I find, to have support, because you go further faster. It's nowhere near as scary when someone's there holding your hand,
Right. And
like anything else.
they can make it fun. It's play. You know, when we approach our challenges with a playful attitude,
Yep.
we've already got more of our brain working for us. The research on play and its positive impacts on your ability to do everything
Yep. Yep.
are huge. And you know, when you are getting support, you want to make sure that you're working with someone who is walking the talk, and you and I walk the talk.
That's right. Yeah.
This is our lifestyle. You know,
Yeah.
there's no fudging it. You have to do the things. If you want
Yeah.
a therapist, a body therapist once told me, if you want something to change in your body, you're going to have to change.
Right.
And I thought, well, that's a novel idea.
I know. I know. Looking at things differently to get, if you want what it says, to change if you want things to change, you have to look, I can't remember the quote. It's
Be the
to
change you
change
want.
it. No, it's to change the things around you. You have to, oh my God, why is the quote? I always use this quote too, and it's like totally blanking.
It will come back.
Change the way you look at things. When you change, oh, here it is. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. That's the
Absolutely.
quote. That's the quote. I was like, my brain was all fumbled. I got to tap a little more.
You just got your nervous system just got a little too fast.
I know. I
My
know.
guru says it this way: a miracle is a change of perception.
Mm. Yeah, miracles are everywhere, every single day. This conversation is a miracle. The fact that we're breathing is a miracle, in my opinion. The fact that we woke up this morning, miracle. And I think that it's important not to take things for granted. It's important to have greater self-awareness. It's important to take to take charge in a sense. I hate the word control, but like
What's
in order
charge?
like
Yeah.
to take charge and consciously decide that your well-being, your health and well-being are not only matter, but they're foundational to everything else you're trying to do, create, live, share, be. It's the number one thing. This is the vehicle that we do our work in. This container that you're living in right now.
Mhm.
That's got to take you from point A to point B all the way to point Z and beyond that.
Yeah.
And if we don't take care of it, body, mind, spirit, not just one or the other or thinking it's separate,
Mhm.
then it's hard to see the way through the forest, I
A,
think.
a lot of people know more about and spend more energy caring for their car than they do this precious vehicle right here.
I am not that person.
Yeah. And the truth of the matter is, we are built to grow and change and evolve. And when we get in a right relationship with this body, as you said a minute ago, everything else is better. And I remind people of this all the time because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs. Your body is your number one business asset and business partner.
Yep,
If you are not bringing you along, your business is not going to do as well. That's just the truth.
it is true.
You don't have the energy, the
Anything.
creativity, the enthusiasm.
Yeah. It affects everything. It affects the whether you're an entrepreneur or a career driven person or
Mhm.
you are in relationship with other people.
Right.
I think we're all in relationship with other people, right? And I think it just if we don't start with ourselves, then it just spills out everywhere.
Our number one relationship, I will come down to every time, is our relationship with
With
ourselves.
ourselves. Exactly. 100%. And I think for, it in this hustle culture and also in the conditioning that we've had, which is a whole other conversation, um, it's often considered selfish to take care of yourself.
No, it's selfing. I call it
Oh,
selfing.
I like that. Oh,
If
I
you
like
not take,
selfing.
yeah, if you are to not take care of yourself is selfish, because at some level you're going to expect other people to fill in that gap for you.
Preach. That's amazing. Well
And
said. Yeah.
whether it's you're going to expect the healthcare system to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to right a ship that has
Hmm.
gone off course, or you're going to depend on your family and your friends to take you back and forth to doctor's visits or to care for you at home because your health is broken down. And look, my idea is that everyone can live happy and healthy in their body. And I don't think that that means all the bodies are the same. My definition of what is healthy may be very different from yours, and that's okay. But we don't have to be a burden on our society, on our friends and family, and on our life. We don't have to steal our own enthusiasm and joy by not being well in our body.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a gift. Taking care of your health is the biggest gift that you
It
give us.
is. And I think it affects how we interact with our relationships in our everyday life.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk so candidly and honestly and open-heartedly. I just adore
Thank
you. You know that. Let's share something that folks can take with them and use. Do you have something that we can post in there about sleep, maybe? Maybe we'll put a
Oh,
link in,
yeah. Oh, yeah. I have a beautiful little sleep guide. It really is pretty. And it is,
I just want to interrupt you for 1 second. Sharda has the most awesome like YouTube channel. She's got all sorts of great, cool content out there. I consume it on the regular. Like my favorite is your facial lymph drainage for when my allergies are really acting up. It's really good. So anyway, I just love your stuff.
oh,
Go ahead.
yeah. Well, thank you. I'm all about a healthy body, and there's a story behind everything I do. But the sleep guide, sleep is a habit, it's a training. It's there's a lot of energy that gets put into sleep training children young so that they have a healthy sleep life. And it really works. And we as adults could use a little sleep training. And this sleep guide is filled with practical things that you can put into motion today that will
Awesome.
improve your ability to get the deep, restful sleep your body deserves.
I love that.
Yeah. So I'd
That's
be happy
amazing.
to share that. It's a joy to share that.
Yay. Okay. Well, we'll post that in the comments and so that you have the links available to
Yeah.
you. Any final closing things that we want to say? This was amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to
I
talk
want
about all things.
I want to say thank you for being such a bright spark in the world and a joy in my life.
Oh, right back at you. Where's those flying hearts? Why are they not flying? There they are. Woo!
I can't get them to fly, but I did get mine to sparkle. And that for all that are listening, the news is so good. If you are struggling with anything in your body, we have good skills now. We have great tools. And really, the news is so good. You can change everything. You have everything you need built inside of your marvelous nervous system to live happy and healthy in your body. And if Tracy and I can be of service to you in any way, we are all in.
Come
Just
find us. Come find us. You know where we are. And if
great.
just tag us below if you have questions, if there's something you want to contribute to the conversation, because I know I've been live on Facebook, but I don't check Facebook while I'm in here because I want to be fully present here in the conversation.
I
So
can't do
if I can't multitask like that. Ain't nobody got time for that. But I will go back in. Sharda will go back in. We'll look in and we'll check in. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask us. And
it.
for now, that's all. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time. Mwah!
Love you.
Love you.